A to Z Mysteries, Book Number 10, The Jaguar's Jewel, by Ron Roy. Chapter 1. Dink spread the note on his knees and read it out loud. Dear Nephew Donnie, I am so happy that you're coming to visit. You and your friends are going to love New York City. I will meet your train at 4 o'clock on Friday at Grand Control Station. Love, Uncle Worden. Josh giggled. He calls you Donnie? Yeah, Dig said, blushing. But if you ever do, I'll tell all the kids at school your middle name is Carol. But my middle name isn't Carol, Josh said. Dink flashed an evil grin. So? Guys, I think we're here, Ruth Rose said. The train slowed. Suddenly, the bright sunny day vanished. Everything outside the train windows turned black. Hey, what happened? Josh cried. Dink laughed. We're in a tunnel, Josh, he said. Don't worry, Ruth Rose and I will protect you. The train slowed even more, then stopped. New York, Grand Central Station, the conductor called. Last stop, all passengers off. The kids grabbed their backpacks and followed the other passengers to the door. Watch your step, the conductor said. He helped the kids hop onto the platform. They found themselves standing in a concrete tunnel. The dust and soot coming up from under the train made Dink sneeze. Where do we go? Josh asked. My uncle said he'd meet us, Dink said. Maybe we should just wait here. All around them, people were hurrying along the platform. Dink stood on tiptoe, but he couldn't see his uncle anywhere. Is that him? Ruth Rose asked. She pointed to a short man in a gray suit. He was pushing toward them through the crowd. Dink jumped up and down and waved. Uncle Worden, here we are. Uncle Worden Duncan had white hair and a big smile. He carried an umbrella and wore a red carnation in his lapel. His eyeglasses twinkled in the underground lights. Donnie, welcome, he said, beaming at the kids. How was your train ride? Are you hungry? We're fine, Dink said. The train was great, and Mom packed sandwiches for us. Splendid! Dink's uncle gave him a big hug. And whom have we here? He asked, peering through his round glasses. Josh and Ruth Rose, Dink said. My best friends. Marvelous, Uncle Worden said, shaking their hands. Now let's go find a cab. Follow me. Uncle Worden marched up a long ramp with the kids right behind him. A moment later, they entered the biggest room Dink had ever seen. Hundreds of people bustled in every direction. A deep voice announcing train arrivals and departures echoed over a loudspeaker. Piles of luggage were heaped around the gleaming marble floor. Try as he might, Dink couldn't take it all in. Uncle Worden said, This is Grand Central Station's main terminal. Look up. The kids tipped their heads back and looked up. And up. Gold-painted stars and animals danced across an emerald green ceiling. This is so awesome, Josh said. Look, there's a bull and a goat. Taurus and Capricorn, the zodiac signs, dear boy, Uncle Worden explained. Now onward. Uncle Worden marched them toward an exit. The kids followed him out of the building. The street outside Grand Central Station was a shock to Dink. His ears were blasted by horns honking, brakes squealing, music blaring, and food vendors shouting. Welcome to the Big Apple, Uncle Worden said. He waved his umbrella and whistled. A yellow cab zoomed up and screeched to a halt inches from Uncle Worden's shiny black shoes. Uncle Worden yanked open the rear door. In, youngsters, in, he cried. They had barely sat down and shut the door when the cab lurched back into traffic. Where to? The driver asked over her shoulder. Number 340 West 110th Street. Uncle Warden said. He turned to the kids. We'll stop at the museum first, he said. I'm expecting a shipment from South America. Dink sat up as the driver zigzagged her way up a wide avenue. With his nose to the glass, Dink watched thousands of cars, taxis, buses, bikes, and people dodge one another. Even through the closed taxi window, he could feel the throbbing pulse of the huge city. 20 minutes later, the cab hurtled to a stop in front of a building made of white marble. Here we are, the driver said. Uncle Warden handed her a few bills. Keep the change, please. Thanks, mister, the driver said, smiling into her rearview mirror. Uncle Warden and the kids piled out of the taxi. This is where I work, Uncle Warden said. He pointed to a small brass sign next to a green door. The sign read, The Porter Museum. Dink noticed that it was a lot quieter here. Cheese stood in front of the buildings, and a few kids were drawing chalk pictures on the sidewalk. From a window across the street came the sound of someone playing a piano. Suddenly he heard a voice call out, Warden, hello! Dink saw a smiling man and woman standing in front of a small restaurant next to the museum. Behind them, a sign above a wide window read, Le Petit Bistro. Come meet my friends, Uncle Warden said, heading toward the couple. He introduced the kids. And this is Jean Paul and his wife Yvonne, Uncle Warden said. Uncle Warden pointed to the sign. These lovely people own the best French restaurant in New York. Hello, the man and woman said, smiling. Nice to meet you, the kids said all together. Yvonne turned to Uncle Warden. It came, she said. A big, heavy box. 4 men carried it upstairs to your office. Jean Paul reached into his pocket. I went up with them, then locked the door when they left, he said, dropping a key on a brass ring into Uncle Warden's hand. What's in the box? Dink asked. Uncle Warden winked. Nothing much, he said. Only priceless gold. Chapter 2. The kids followed Uncle Warden through the green door. They climbed carpeted stairs to a door with a frosted glass window. Uncle Warden unlocked it, and they walked into a spacious, dimly lit office. A wooden crate, nearly as tall as Dink, sat on the floor. Dink looked around the room. A desk and some chairs were arranged on an oriental rug. A fish tank bubbled quietly near the desk. Against one wall stood a bookcase. Dink peeked through another door and saw a computer on a desk, a file cabinet, and some bookshelves. My assistant works in there, Uncle Warden said. He took the afternoon off. It's his daughter's birthday, and they've gone to the zoo. You have a zoo? Josh asked. Yes, right here in Manhattan we have the Central Park Zoo, Uncle Warden said. But there's also the Bronx Zoo, which is enormous. Uncle Warden flipped up 3 switches on the wall. Suddenly, a ceiling fan began whirring around. Music came from hidden speakers. Overhead lights beamed down on them. This is a cool office, Dink said. Thank you, his uncle said. He pointed to the fish tank. Who'd like to feed my little friends? I would, Ruth Rose said. Uncle Warden handed her a container of fish food and showed her how much food to sprinkle on the water. Look at this, Josh said, lifting a shiny silver dagger off the desk. The blade was curved, and the handle was shaped like a soaring hawk. Careful, Uncle Warden said. It's sharp. I use it as a letter opener. Is it real silver? Josh asked. Uncle Warden nodded. It was made in Spain more than 300 years ago. I can see my reflection in it, Josh said. Uncle Warden laughed. That's because my assistant polishes it every morning. Josh wiped the letter opener on his t-shirt and placed it back on the desk. Now let's see what we have here, Uncle Warden said. He draped his suit jacket over a chair, then dragged a toolbox from a closet. He selected a small crowbar from among the tools. Fitting the sharp end of the bar under the crate's lid, he pried the top off. Inside were mounds of white-packing peanuts. Uncle Warden reached through the peanuts and pulled out a small package wrapped in brown paper. He stripped away the paper to reveal a layer of plastic bubble wrap. He carefully removed the plastic and held up a gold cup. "Cool," said Josh. Uncle Warden grinned at the kids. "Lovely, isn't it?" he said. "This is a drinking cup made by the Incan people in the 1500s. Imagine, almost 500 years ago. Have you studied the Incas in school?" The kids shook their heads. "Well, the Incas lived in Peru in South America. The Porter Museum is going to display some of their pottery and gold sculpture." Leaning over the side of the crate, Uncle Warden dug deeper into the peanuts. "Aha, I think this is the Jaguar." Grunting, he lifted out a much bigger package. It was as long as Dink's arm and nearly as big around as his waist. The heavy package made a solid thud as Uncle Warden set it on his desk. "Why is it so heavy?" Josh asked. "Gold is a heavy metal," Uncle Warden explained. "The Incas admired jaguars for their strength and cunning. This one is made of solid gold. It holds a fabulous emerald in its front paws." "Can we see it?" asked Ruth Rose. "Yes, but not until tomorrow," he said. Dr. Pitts will be here at 9 o'clock. He works for the Society of Incan Treasures. Dr. Pitts will inspect every piece as it comes out of its wrapping." "Why?" Josh asked. "To make sure everything has arrived safely," Uncle Warden said. "These pieces are priceless treasures." Uncle Warden put the Jaguar back in the crate. "Sleep well," he said. Then he reached into the toolbox and handed Josh a hammer. "Let's rewrap the cup and put it back, then nail the crate shut again till tomorrow." After they'd finished, Uncle Warden said, "Now let's lock up and walk to my apartment. We'll leave your backpacks with Roger. Then I'll treat you to a New York dinner." "Who's Roger?" Ruth Rose asked. "He's the doorman at my apartment building," Uncle Warden said. "He opens the door for tenants and whistles for taxis." "Can we eat at your friend's restaurant?" Josh asked. "Yes, but not tonight," Uncle Warden said. "I'm saving that for your last night in the city. What kind of food do you like?" "Pizza and ice cream," Josh said. Dink laughed. "Josh will eat anything," he said. "I mean, do you want Japanese, Chinese, Italian, Greek, Indian, or Mexican food?" Dink's uncle asked. "Why don't you pick?" Dink said. "We love surprises." Uncle Warden flipped down the wall switches. The lights, music, and ceiling fan all went off. The kids followed him out of the office. "Then a surprise you shall have," he said, and pulled the door shut behind them.